Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. This presentation is titled Attaching Sources to FamilySearch Family Tree and will be presented by Gina Palmer. We are very excited to have you all joining us for this webinar. Before we get started, we do have a couple of housekeeping items that we do need to address. First and foremost, this class is being live streamed. You will be able to see a recording of this class on the FamilySearch YouTube page after the class has been finished. Second, we will be posting a link to the chat in the handout, or a link to the handout in the chat if you're attending via Zoom, and we'll be adding that link to the comments on YouTube as well. Third, if you do have a question, please feel free to post that question into the chat or comments feature on the respective platform that you are using. We will try to answer questions as they come in, but we will have a question and answer session following the webinar. So if we don't get to your question during the webinar, we will try to address it after. Many questions that come in are addressed in the presentation. So we do ask for your patience, and you might think about waiting till the end of the presentation for your question, as many of those questions will be addressed during the presentation. Fourth, if you're attending via Zoom and would like to have your question or comment seen by everyone, please make sure that your chat message is set to panelists and attendees. Fifth, we do have the live transcript feature turned on in Zoom. The live transcript feature is automatically transmitting subtitles to our YouTube audience. And unfortunately, if you're on YouTube, you cannot turn those off. If you are on Zoom with us, you are able to turn the transcript off by clicking on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and then clicking hide subtitles. Finally, if you would like to attend more of our webinars and learn more about them, you can view them by searching Family History Library webinars on Google, or visiting the Family History Library Facebook page and checking out our events. So we now turn the time over to Gina Palmer. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here with you. And so we're just going to jump right in. So today we're talking about attaching sources. And since in FamilySearch, the tree that we're working on is meant to be a collaborative effort. And so, everyone's working together. And so because of that, we want to be able to provide sources for the information that we add to the tree. And so it's really important to be able to attach sources. So in Family Tree, we have a lot of helps to find sources and to attach them to the tree. So first, some of the things we're going to be talking about today are the record hints and also, search options, and then specifically how to attach the various sources that we may have that we find in FamilySearch or outside of it. So starting off, we have record hints. And so on your person profile, you'll have record hints, usually up to about 3 of them that are listed. But you'll also see that there's if there's more. So if there, you see show all, you can see how many record hints there are for an individual. And so there's a whole list of them. Okay, so I'll go back to his detail page. So yeah, if you find a record hint, you want to check it out. And so we'll look at the 1910 census example here. And so you'll see an indexed information that has been indexed from the record, and you want to compare that to your individual and make sure it is the same person before you attach them. And if you want to go ahead and attach them, you can review and attach. It's also always recommended that if there is an image available, to review that, because you'll find additional information that was not included in the index. So in our example here, just a quick overview, we've got William Jonathan Leinbach, and his family and family tree consists of his wife and a child. So if we want to look at the 1910 census, we see, he has a wife, and the child died before 1910, but we still want to look at the record. So view the original record, and you can look at it. And let me zoom in here. So here we have William and his wife, and we have, gives information about how long they were married. And it's something we find on the 1910 census is that they actually had 3 children, but by 1910, none of them are still living. And so that was not captured in the index. We don't know their names, but we know that 3 other, that besides this son that died before 1907, they did have 2 other children. So that's important information to know. So it's always important to review the document to gain additional information available. When you're ready to attach the document, you want to click on Review and Attach. And so this will bring the tool, a source linker tool, and on the left, you'll have the information that is in the document, and so you have the information that was indexed with the name, the wife, and the hired girl. On the right column, this is the information that is currently showing in Family Tree. So you can compare the information, and you can add so any new information that might be available. So in the census record, the new information is where he was residing in 1910. So you would just click Add, and you can adjust the dates if needed. You can standardize places if you need. And important, you always want to put in a reason why you're attaching this particular source. And it could be, it's related to, it provides evidence of information or relationships. So just, explaining to others, why are you attaching this to this person? Over here, we have tag events. And so this will, for different documents, you'll have different information. So here they have name, sex, and birth that was included in the document. So you can tag these items to indicate that this document provides information about those particular items. This option to add source to a source box, so that you want to use if there's like other individuals on the document that you want to attach this document to later. So you can, click add to the source box, and that will then show up in your source box. And then, yeah, you can just go through the same, you can look at, compare the individuals, add the information, attach, and go on with that. So in the documents, you may find in your record hints or sources, duplicate sources, and the record hints are generated from indexing. Perhaps many of you have participated in indexing efforts. And so as people index records, the computer system, they're able to read and be able to connect things. And so that's what they pull, things that look like it might be your relative. And that's how it appears as a record hint. And sometimes a set of records might be indexed more than once, focused on different things or times, or so you will occasionally end up with sources basically from the same source, or record hints from the same source. There's not a way to merge those. You'll just have to attach them. You don't want to, so if you are looking at a source or a record hint, you have the option to review and attach, or to say not a match. If it is related to the person, you do want to attach it, even if it's a duplicate source, because sometimes my understanding is that if you say no, not a match, then the system will want to generate a new person. We don't want to duplicate people. So at this point, just attach the records that do attach, even if they're duplicate, you'll have to go ahead and attach them to the person. There is in your source listing, you have different options to, you can do a custom order or you can do a chronological order. And so a chronological order will pull from the date. And so maybe there is, if they've got duplicate sources, maybe you can just put the date on one and leave the date option empty. And then that will just go down to the bottom where you don't have a date. To add or delete a date, you just click on the view source and then you can go to edit and you can enter the date there or delete it. This is all, you can also add any additional information there as well. Okay, so okay, we're done with that. So as you're looking for, you're looking your records, sometimes you may find new people included on the record that are not already in Family Tree. So for example, Lotta here, we have her with her husband and a child, but we don't have any parents for Lotta. And as you're looking at a record hint, once again, we're going to look at the 1910 census for her. And it's from the indexed information, she's appearing as a daughter. And so we find her, head of household. So probably her father. And so we always want to look at the record and see what information is available.
Are you looking at your calendar? No, you're not. You're looking at the.
And let's see, looking for the Howard family. There we go.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm in the wedding.
So we've got George Howard as the head, Lotta as his daughter. And we learn that, we've got some marriage information, children, and her husband's name and child. And so as we go to review and attach, we have the option to add her father because he's not already in Family Tree. And so when you go to add someone that isn't already there, the system will see and look if they can find any matches. And okay.
You got it on the computer, is it on? Is that where you're not seeing it on your calendar?
And then if, oh, okay, before there was a match. Okay, we'll see what. Well, we can also go, if they don't find a match, you can create the person. And actually, let me do that again. Okay, it's there. Well, yeah, so you can then add the information as well. If the person is already in Family Tree, but not necessarily connected to them, the system will bring up examples, is this a match? And so you can check out that person. And if it is a person, then you can link them to your person in Family Tree instead of creating a whole new profile for someone that already exists in Family Tree. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the, tagging. So for instance, let's see. So on this example, well, we see that, there's a birth date and it indicates there's a source. If we see, okay, what is that? We can click edit to see what the source is. And so that's the Pennsylvania death certificate. And so if we go to our sources and find the Pennsylvania death certificate, we can see the tag, there's 3 tags. If we click on tag, we can see, okay, the name, birth, and death has been tagged. So that is what's appearing on the person detail where it indicates it's got a source. And so that when we tag the sources, it will then appear on the detail page to indicate, yes, there is a source for this information. Okay. Okay, so we talked about sending a source to the source box, and so an example here is Anna Dressel. I found a source outside of FamilySearch for her death certificate, or death record, and I added her as a source, or added that record as a source to her, but I also marked check the source box. And so to get to your source box, you go up to your login or to your name up in the right hand corner, and you left click and you see source box. And there's different, you can create folders. And so for this one, I put her in this folder. And so this is the record that is attached to her. And you can, there was also information, it gave information about her father, as her husband, and her parents. And right now, I don't have this record attached to the parents. I just have it attached to her. Okay, let me go back, maybe. Okay, that's not going. So let's find her again.
Yeah.
So yeah, so usually you should be able to go back. Okay, here we are.
You'll have to find this email. Right now, you'll have to find this email. It's not showing up in your calendar.
So I have, I do know her father's name and her husband's. And if I want to attach that source to either of them, I just go to their person detail page and go to sources and just verify that it's not already attached. And then you go to add source and you select attach from source box. And then you select the one you want to attach, just click that attach, and then you put a reason statement, provides information, about the relationship, or perhaps she was indicated as a widow, so that would indicate that he died beforehand. And if we didn't have a death date for him, that would be a source of at least kind of a time frame of when he died. And so for here was, provides evidence of, relationship, and you attach them. Now, when you attach a source from the source box, you have to go back to that source in their source list to the individual and tag them. So you don't have that option before. So here we can, kind of indicate that. Yeah, so you can tag whatever you want on there. And sorry. When you attach it, also here, you'll see the reason this source was attached to him. So that's using your source box and the tagging. Any questions right now, specifically the tagging or source box, or do we want to wait till the end?
So we can do the questions at the end, or now if you'd like. We did have questions like what it means to tag events. Nothing, I didn't see anything else close by.
Okay.
So
Tag events. Okay, so tag events, basically anything that's in the detail page, anything that appears in the vitals. So name, sex, birth, christening, death, and burial. Those will be options that you can tag. And so it also will depend on, so when you're attaching a source, okay, I can't, let's go to stateside example. So if you're reviewing a record, not all of the tag events will appear. The system kind of will filter, because based on the indexed information, they'll pull out the tag events that have been indexed. So here we don't necessarily see death or christening or burial, so those tag events don't come up. So if information related to tag event has been indexed, you'll see that option where you can tag them. But you can go in afterwards and add additional tags if you want. So for instance, on death certificates, oftentimes they include a burial date, but that's not necessarily information that is indexed. So doesn't appear as a tag event, but you can go in afterwards back into the source and add a tag. So say for instance, on this, it's a death certificate, if they indicated, oftentimes the sex might be included or the burial date might be included on a birth certificate. So you can go back in after you've attached the source and add additional tags if you want.
Okay. Do you want to keep with questions on tagging or continue and then do it at the end?
Let's take one more question on tagging.
Okay. How does tagging specifically help me in my research? Okay.
So it's a good question. So when we're going, when we're looking at a person detail page, we do see that there are sources, but it's a quick way to know, okay, what sources do I have for specific information? And so, for instance, I have 10 sources for birth, but only 2 sources for death. And so as you tag it, all the sources you attach, you can it's an organization of saying, okay, this source is good, provides evidence for a death, or this source provides evidence for a birth. And so you don't have to go through your source list all the time and look at, okay, what is this a source for? You can, if you tag the events, you can have that quick overview on the detail page. And then you can also look at, if you've got 2 sources, you can see, okay, what sources are those? And then if you need more information, you can, click on them and, get the information that's, it's indexed, then provided there. Birth has 10 sources. And you can see, okay, what sources, I have provided the death or the birth information. And you can see there's differences, it's, different years. And so it gives you an overview, and you can kind of, see what is more likely to be more accurate, or, what is this information based off of? So it provides a quick reference to sources available. Okay, so I've got the source box and tagging. So those are, we've talked about record hints. There's also talked about one more thing of different places, attached sources. So sometimes, well, yeah, so perhaps you found a record, or you have a photo, or like maybe you went to the cemetery yourself and you took a photo of the headstone and you added it to memories at a prior date. And then it's like, oh, I want to attach that picture of the headstone as a source because it provides, a source of information. So what you can do is go to the person and go to their sources, add source, and you can say add a new memory source, because that's where you're going to pull your source from. And so for John Emblem, I found his obituary a while back and I added it as a memory. But it's like, oh, maybe it'd be a good thing to add as a source. So I can, when you're adding a memory, there's an option to either upload a new memory, so you have not uploaded it to the system before, or you can select from the gallery. So I'm going to select the gallery. I'm going to find the obituary. So this is the obituary that I found, and you select that and you attach it, and it will appear here. And then when you're adding a source, you want to include the information. So, this is 1973, and you want to put the source. So the information was, came from a newspaper. So you want to put the newspaper, the title, the date, page. Well, so the sorry, for the source title is just kind of a quick reference to what source it came from. So probably the name of the paper and the year, and I include the name of who it relates to. Down here is your citation. This is where you want to go more detail. And let me give some example. We'll go back to this record that I attached. That was from a different online source. It was from an archive. And so just to show the example, so you have the event date. The source is the death records of Protestant Church in Seckenheim, the year range of that book. And so I added the name of the person it was applied to. And then in the citation, you want to give enough information so that someone else can find it. So the author who's creating the record, what's the name of the record or the book, what's the year range. If you found it on a website, where's the website, and if you're taking it from a website, you want to indicate when you found it, because things change. And just what other information is helpful in finding the record. And example, there's different ways or different resources to help you write a citation. One example is Evidence Explained by Elizabeth Shawn Mills. And so that's what you want to put in where it's found. And then to describe the record, since this one was in German, I just kind of extracted the most of the important relevant information, and then you just save that. And when you're initially creating a source, you have the option to tag it. After it's been created, you can still adjust that. You just need to go to tag. And so I know her name, I know her sex, from her age at death, I know her birth, and it gave me the death and burial dates. So I tagged those, and then now that source will appear as the death for the information and the burial. Once I enter the information, the tag's already there. I just need to add the death information there. Okay, so those are record hints or attaching sources from the gallery, or uploading photos directly. So if you want to just add the source as a new memory source, you can just upload a file directly. So if you select upload file, then you can find, okay, what file to go to pull your record. Another option, let's close out of that. So yeah, so this is your initial adding it. So when you're starting a new one, this is, you can check all the events. So once again, these are the ones that are appearing on the vital section on the detail page. Add a new source. This is, you can add a website. So if you find information, you can just put the link in there. So you don't have a document picture, but you can refer the link. For instance, I do a lot of German research, and a lot of church records are available in Archeon, and that is a database or a place that provides a lot of church records online, but it is a subscription website. And so maybe to that one, I would just add a link. Or, there's different situations. So there's that option. And then we've talked about attaching from the source box. Okay, so record hints, then we can also search for records from any of the, this is a quick link to the search for records about a given person. And I'm going to jump over to our live for this part. So we have Jesse Dietz, born in 1866, died in 1937. We have some record hints. We've also have some, sources attached, but we want to see what other records there might be. Not all the records will appear in the record hint, so you always want to search. So if you click on any of those search items, you'll come up, and on the left, the information will be pre-filled of what's available in the details. So we have the name, birth, marriage, death, and so we also already have some of the results related to that. You can adjust, add, delete that search option, but it's just kind of that one click, a quick shortcut to, you don't have to fill out all that information to do your search. And so you find a record, it's like, oh, this looks like this might be him. So you can select his name, and you'll find you'll see the indexed information. In this case, we can view the record. Sometimes it's not always available to view the record, and so it might say no image available, and you just have to work with the index. Sometimes there's a link to a partner site. So for instance, if the link was to find a grave, it would, instead of the document, it would have a link. And if you click on that, it will take you to find a grave. That's where you can then, see the images or the, that website information. You can check out the document information, especially if it's an index or other available information. You can see this is kind of tells you where you might find this document. So, if it's a microfilm number or digital, if it's been digitized, you want to use this information, note the image number to help find the document in the microfilm. Another nice feature about this part is as you scroll down, it has, let's collapse that, similar historical records. So it continues to help you look for additional records. So these are records that, hey, kind of additional record hints to say this also, might apply to the same person. So you want to approach that with the same thing with the record hints. You want to look at it, look at the documents, make sure it's your, your ancestor, and then you can go ahead and attach it. In this setting, we've got a few tools as far as you can add it to your source box from this. You can copy it to a clipboard if you want to, copy, the information that's indexed and put it in a Word document, or there's that option. You can print it, save it as a PDF or print it out. Whatever you want to do before you print or copy, always good thing to open up this document information, because that is that's very handy to have for future reference. And there's also an option to email it. Say you're searching and you find this cool record and you want to share it with your family or with someone else that's you're working on this together, and it's like, oh cool, I found this neat record. You can use the email function to share it that way as well. Okay. So, and then you do have, if you're finding records and, you can search. So if you search of these others, you do need, to have an account with them. But, if you have that account and you go to those other sites, the same thing will happen. That happens when you go to the Family Search, that information, your search information will be pre-filled in. And so if you find information on those other websites or just in general, you can then attach as a source, go to the sources and then add it as a new source to use the website link and just fill out the information you have. Or if you want to add a memory, you can go to that as well. Okay, someone had a question about unfinished attachments. Oh, I guess I need to save that. Okay, so on this one, I have a few unfinished attachments. So what this means, so let's, just kind of, so the system will have indexed information. And so in this particular record, we see the image is available with this source, but we have both Casper and Anna. Both those names were indexed. And so if you look at unfinished attachments, we can see that, well, in this case, none of them, this source was not attached. But so usually, let's see if I can find a better example. Probably not. Okay, so census, let's see, view source. So in this one, there were 3 individuals indexed. And so if we go to unfinished attachments, okay, it's probably because we're in beta form. Let's try, see if we have options here. Okay, sorry. So the unfinished attachments basically indicates that there are, say in this record, there are 3 people that were indexed, but the record has not been attached to all those individuals that were indexed. And so in this case, we have William and Maud, and then there was a servant, Lizzie. And so we would attach this record to William and Maud because that's who we're working with. But we're not related to Lizzie, and we don't know where she fits. We don't know her heritage. And so we don't attach the record to her. And so that will leave the unfinished attachments message, because not all the, we had 3 people that were indexed. Sorry, that's a different one. Back. Okay, so we had 3 people that were indexed, but the record has only been attached to 2 of them so far. So as long as you have more people that were indexed than the record has been attached to, you'll get the unfinished attachments. And you don't feel like you have to attach. There's going to be records where you don't have, you don't know the people, and so you won't be able to attach them. And you do have the dismiss option. So perhaps, in this situation where it's like, well, they've been attached to everyone in my family, and this person is not related. I believe then that's when you use the dismiss option to say, yep, everyone in my family is taken care of, and we can dismiss that. Okay, so I think that's all I have for you today. I'll open up the questions.
Great, thank you so much, Gina. So we have a few questions. One question that we get a lot of is, can you merge duplicate sources?
Okay, yeah, I know that is not an option. You just have to attach them. We really encourage you to attach them even if they're duplicate. So when you go to view and attach, you do have the option to say not a match or don't attach it. If it does apply to the person, do attach it, even if it's a duplicate source. It's just that if you say it's not a match, then the system's going to look for someone to match it with, and might create a new person profile, and we don't want duplicate people. So yeah, answer is no, there's no way to do
so
that.
And I agree with you, Gina. There is no way to merge them. However, like you said, you don't want to click not a match, because that changes the algorithms used for matching. So if it is the right person, still attach it and do it. The reason that there's duplicates is because there's multiple collections. Sometimes a film or a group of images was indexed more than once. And so they show up multiple times, and that's why. So we recommend to just add all of those duplicates. Okay. What determines which documents you would upload as a memory and which ones you would create as a source?
Right. So there's so a source, a source that you attach is always going to provide a foundation or a source for information that you're adding. So if it has information about names or births or deaths or marriage or family relationships, you'll want to include that as a source, because this is your proof that the information you've added is correct, or this is what you're basing your information off of. And so the thing is, if you're adding it as a memory, so if you're adding a memory as a source, then you have it in both the memory and the source. So basically, any memory, okay, if you're adding it to the source, it's going to be a source and a memory. If you're adding it to just the memories, it's not going to be a source automatically. You'll have to say, I want it to be a source as well. So, the memories can be anything, stories, photos, it can be documents. And so let's see, for example, you can have photos, you can have documents that have, write-ups. And so as you add memories, you might then think, do I want it as a source as well, or just as a memory? And so it's really your decision as far as, if a memory can act as a source as well, then you might want to add it. So, grave marker, that's a source. It provides dates. And so, yeah, so it's kind of your decision. And it's just that, know that if you're adding it as a source, it's going to be a memory. It's going to end up in your memories section as well, but not everything you add to memories will be a source. Hope that answered it.
Thank you. I also think that one thing to note is if it's an image you can't necessarily get that's indexed, sometimes, or you attach it, sometimes I will put it in as a actual source and a memory under the documents portion of the individual, just to help people find them and realize that they are there. But that's my own personal option when I do it.
And there's also an option to indicate, if what that information, if it to make it public that anyone can see it, or private that just you can see it. So there's that option as well, as if you're adding, if you're worried about if there might be restrictions on documents or whatever. So there's that option to do public or private.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are there issues with copyright when using the source box or adding sources and images of sources? Someone has a record that they receive from somewhere, and they want to know if they can add the image or if they can only put in the URL to that image.
Yeah, so we definitely respect copyright issues. And so when anytime you're adding, as a source or document, you definitely need to consider, okay, what are the copyright issues? What are the restrictions? And so you might have to look at that particular image and say, okay, what is the situation? What are the restrictions? And we do abide by those. And for instance, recently I was working on a project and I was able to obtain, an image, but since I was going to, put it online, so I got the image from an archive, and so they had say, hey, if you want to publish it or whatever, you need to get permission. And so it's like it was basically added. I wrote to them, asked permission, or is this something I can do? And they says yes, if you do this. So in this case, it was basically I had to make sure that the citation or the source was included in the image. So we do need to be mindful of copyright issues. Also, when you're attaching photos, be mindful of, who you're attaching if people are still alive. We do want to be careful about that when we're attaching any type of source.
Great, thank you. What do you do with incomplete source attachments? So like source attachments that have like the priest or witnesses or housekeepers, slaves, and other non-relatives that are in those index records.
Mm-hmm. So I think so that, where's that? I believe, Brennan, correct me, is the dismiss, is that where that comes in? I haven't really used this. That it's like,
so if you're in the source linker, so like when you click on unfinished attachments, sometimes what will happen is you'll have individuals listed on the record that are not listed in family tree because they're not listed as part of the family. So you have a couple of options in those cases. One option, especially this happens a lot in census records when you're dealing like with a boarding house. A couple of options that like here we go. We have one with the servant, Lizzie Hoffman. They're never going to show up as part of the family on Family Tree. But if you wanted, you could either create that individual in the family tree as an unattached person, or you could also search through Family Tree using the find option that was taught in a previous class to attach that record to that individual. Or the third and easiest option is to just leave it and not worry about it.
So are you familiar with the dismiss? I mean,
if you dismiss it, it will just not give you that error. It won't give you that message anymore.
Okay, so it looks like that it won't even appear for Lizzie either. So I guess we do want to.
So it's up to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Next question. Would it be prudent to add all of the tags to grab everything that might show up in the record?
I'm not quite sure. So we do.
So like I was gonna say, I think like when you have the tags, sometimes it gives you multiple tags, but it doesn't automatically click them. Is it prudent to just tag everything? Yeah,
I think if if the record includes the information, say for instance, the death certificate, most death certificates do not include a tag for the burial, even though the burial information and date is included on the death certificate. So my approach is that if there's information that is covered by a tag, and and it's like, this is my source for that information, I think more tags are good, because that will indicate which records include that information.
Agreed. But one thing to note is it will only tag the vital information. If you've added other events in your other information, it does not usually tag them to those events.
Right, like marriage.
Right. So so do realize that when you're tagging certain items, like only the items in the vital information, the vital section will appear. In the source linker, when a duplicate appears because of a variation of spelling or a date, and you've ascertained that this is the same person, is there a way to delete that entry, or do you need to add it and then merge later?
Okay, so the source linker is related to attaching sources. So if sometimes you have you get a record hint for someone and you find, oh, this record is already attached to someone else. So that's a hint that there's a duplicate person. And I guess since it's already attached to that other person, then I'd probably go through the process of, okay, is this a duplicate that needs to be merged? So I would address the merging issue And then by merging it, that will basically already take care of the attaching the hint, because that the record is already attached to the person. But yeah, because if it's already attached to someone else, you can't attach it to your new person. Yeah, it's might be confusing. So okay, let's say for example, you're looking at you're reviewing a record hint, or you're attaching a source. And so if it's already attached to someone, instead of this compare, you'll get a triangle, like a warning with exclamation marks, or warning. And so if you hover on that little triangle and right click, you can see the person ID number of the individual that record is already attached to. So you can go to that person and you can determine if these individuals need to be merged, or if the record needs to be detached because it was attached to the wrong person. So there is an option to detach it, and then you'll be able to attach it to your person. Yeah, hopefully.
Okay. Someone wants to know how you take a hint like find a grave and attach and link it. Could you walk them through that process again really quick?
Okay, so let's see if we can find an example. Oh, we're in the wrong one. Collection, let's see if we can find a grave. Okay.
I just pick any one of those.
Huh?
I just pick any one of those because find a grave was just like an example.
Yeah, okay, so okay, so basically so if you find you can, okay, let's do it this way. So say this is going to say this is find a grave. So you've clicked the link, you've gone to the image, to the place that you want to record. And so say this is find a grave, you would just copy the URL, and then as you go to your sources, you can add source, you can add a new source, and then you just paste that URL in there. Then you could put down, find a grave, maybe the memorial number, what date you found it, and you fill out if it, the death date, find a grave, Hugh Smith, and whatever information you want to include, if it includes birth date or family, and then you can say, it identifies his name, death, burial, and you can determine if you want to add it to your source box or not. And so we do need to put your information, and then you save it. And so that's how you attach. So from find a grave, you basically can just copy and paste the URL and then fill out the rest of the information and save it.
Great. Sorry. Someone wants to know, can you detach wrong info that was added by someone else, such as mixing up the information with a father and a son?
Yeah, so if well, okay. So if you're looking at information and you decide, oh, one of these, this is attached to the wrong person. If you do view source, you have the option to detach it. And as you click detach, it will ask, why are you detaching it? And so then you can explain, this is attached to the son instead of the father, or, and then you just, then, click detach, and then that will remove it. Now, when you detach a source, it does not automatically remove information that you got from that source. So you might have to come back to your vitals and remove any information that was related to that source. It was the birth, was it residence? So that's, that's just keep in mind when you're detaching a source, you need to go back and then yourself remove information that was related to that source and not to the person that you're working with.
Awesome. Another individual here, when they click on review and the review and attach button, but when that page comes up, it's not the person that they're trying to attach it to, or that it's already attached. So what do you recommend in those cases?
Okay, so if it's attached and you say this is not right, so it will, okay, if it's already attached, it will indicate it will indicate that it's already attached. So you can there will be an option to detach it from your comparison screen. So yeah, so there'll be a triangle. Okay, sorry, there's a couple of things. So if it's attached, already attached, it'll indicate that. If it's attached to someone else, that's when you have the triangle. But yeah, if you see that it's not, if it's attached to someone and it's not the correct person, then you want to detach it. And so there would think there is an option from this screen, from the source linker screen. But otherwise, you'll just go into the source and manually detach it. So those two options of detaching the source.
Okay, so this is what's happening when they're doing like a marriage record, and what's happening is in that marriage record, it goes up and it brings up the information for the mother, but not for the bride and the groom. How do we change the primary person?
Oh, okay.
So I think we got a good example there. You have the Pennsylvania marriages.
Okay. So let's see, you can open it. So we don't have, so in this marriage, this particular record, we don't have that, but we can change, if you want to change people, you can use these where it says change. And so, for instance, the option is Jesse. And so what happens that, you've selected Jesse, and that's now, going to be attached to Lotta because you've changed that sequence. You can also change sequence over here that, it's like, who do I want to focus on? Oh, this is spouse. So you can change on either, on the historical record or the family search option to match up, kind of to line up the correct individuals. Now, the thing is, if a record, when it was indexed, if the relationshwas indexed incorrectly, for instance, I work a lot with German records. The marriage record identified the bride as the widow of someone, and it was indexed that John Smith was her father, not her former husband. That you can't fix. You can't, because of the relationship. The relationship was indexed incorrectly, so you won't necessarily be able to attach it. You might have to do some finagling maybe, but oftentimes I find that it's, you can't attach it because the relationship is incorrect in the index record.
Yeah, but you can also sometimes changing that primary person, it can actually give you other options as well. So play with the primary person. Okay, unfortunately, we don't have time for many more questions. So I got one more here. Can you review how to upload an outside document or photo as a source?
Okay. So let's close this one. Yeah. So if you want to come to, you want to add a source, you come to sources, add a source, and you want to use add memory source because that's something that you're adding an image or a document. And so that you will select, so depending on where you're getting that source from, have you previously saved it on your computer? Then you just use upload memory and select the file on your computer to pull it from. Perhaps you scanned it into the memory section of FamilySearch at an earlier date. You can go to select from gallery and find it there and attach it. So those are documents. So if you have documents at home, you need to digitize it and then select either upload memory or select from gallery to attach it. And then be sure to fill out all the information related to the source and then determine if you want to add it to your source box and then save it.
Great. Thank you, Gina. And we want to thank everyone for your attendance. We are happy that you could join us. Please note that we will be having another webinar on Thursday, June 17th at 10 a.m. And it will be a question and answer session for your United States and Canada research questions. If you Google Family History Library webinars, you can find the registration page and you can submit your questions before the actual session. Also, we will have another class next week, which will be covering how to merge your duplicate ancestors, which will be next Tuesday and on June 22nd at 10 a.m. So thank you again for your attendance. We're very happy you could join us, and we hope that you all have a wonderful day.